think this whole thing is wild, really wild. I covered this story. Cameron Winklevoss from Gemini sent this open letter to Barry Shilbert, not very flattering at all, claiming that they're dragging their feet. They borrowed, DCG, the parent company, borrowed $1.675 billion, and they invested it poorly, and now, they're not willing to work with Gemini to try to get people their money back, right? So this morning, Barry Shilbert did respond in his own manner, and then Cameron responded again, saying that you're lying, you're trying to pretend like you're innocent when you're not, right? So what are you going to do? Are you going to try to settle this by January 8th? I mean, it just went on and on and on, and there's been no further update, but hopefully this doesn't lead to another FTX event because DCG is absolutely huge. They do have a lot of assets to sell off, so hopefully it doesn't get any worse, right? And this is what we need to get past in 2023. No more of collapses and contagion spreading, right? So hopefully we get a conclusion to this and everything else. Next up, let's talk about Bitcoin and its birthday. It's 14 years old today. 14. You think about it, barely turned teenager, right? So if you think about any kind of technical revolution that we have had over the last century, not a lot of them progressed far within 14 years. You look at the invention of the internet or the mobile phone, right? It took a long time, decades upon decades, before mass adoption, before it became what it is now, right? And to think that Bitcoin started 14 years ago as an experiment, right? Whoever Satoshi is, or the group, right? They set off releasing the Genesis block and then releasing Bitcoin upon the world. And look at where it is today, right? It's so big, so widely known, and so indestructible that governments don't even talk about trying to shut down Bitcoin anymore because they realize it's fruitless. Think about how hard that is to be able to create something that's globally adopted now and so big that you can't even shut it down. You can't replicate this. This is kind of like once in a lifetime kind of thing, right? So even though as it has gotten to this state, it's still early. It's still a teenager, and there's so much more that will be coming with this revolution, right? So here's block 0, the very first block, block 0, timestamp, January 3rd, 2009. If you were mining Bitcoin back then with a difficulty of 1, using just a laptop, you could have gotten tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin within a very short amount of time. But most of us were not paying attention, unfortunately, in 2009. But yeah, for its 14th birthday, obviously we're at 16.7, right? But you look at previous birthdays, starting with 2011, you got 30 cents, jumping up to almost $5, jumping up to almost $13, then all the way up to $818. Then you go down to 84, 429, then you jump to 1,000, then you jump up to 15,000, right? Then you come back down to 3,800, 7,300, then you go whopping to 32,000, 46,000, and here we are, 16,000. But the moral of this is, yes, Bitcoin goes up and down. It does go up and down. It doesn't go up infinitely forever, right? So it does go up and down, but you'll notice that the lows are getting much higher and the highs are also getting much higher because Bitcoin is scarce and there's just a lot of people that are buying and holding. Well, this is a blow to Celsius. I think many people forgot, including myself, that Celsius has about 37,000 Bitcoin miners. That's with Core Scientific. But here's the thing. They can't afford to pay their bills, electricity costs, maintenance costs, and Core Scientific argues that these 37,000 mining rigs cost them $2 million per month to maintain. So one of the things that Celsius was looking for was to kind of keep these rigs going and take the Bitcoin that they mine and sell it off and kind of plug some of the holes they have. But the courts ruled that, yeah, you can't do this because Core Scientific is also having their own legal financial problems. So the courts ruled that, yeah, they get to shut down the 37,000 mining rigs, which definitely doesn't help Celsius. But it helps Core Scientific because now they don't have to pay this $2 million bill every month to keep it going when they see no benefit from it, right? So it helped Core Scientific quite a lot. But another blow to Celsius, and it's still unknown when they're going to sell off their assets. I don't know where the auction is. They kind of claimed bankruptcy right around the same time as Voyager. And Voyager has gone through its proceedings and, first sold to FTX, now sold to Binance pretty quickly, relatively speaking. Celsius is still unknown at this point. I don't know what's taking so long. But not good for them. Not good for them. Lightning Network is expanding as well. Lightning Network, the capacity, the liquidity is growing by leaps and bounds. And now we'll have Bitcoin ATMs utilizing Lightning Network so that it becomes much cheaper and makes a lot more sense because a lot of these ATMs, the spreads on the buys and sells are so off. Mostly because I think they're afraid that the price changes too much within a 10-minute span, right? But with the Lightning Network, almost everything is processed instantaneously, so you don't have to worry about that. So hopefully, this makes Bitcoin ATMs a lot more useful. I've been seeing a lot more Bitcoin ATMs around the nation, especially when I'm just looking at shopping at malls and stuff like that. I see them all the time, but I don't see anyone using them, and hopefully, they will in the future. For SushiSwap, a lot of you guys do use SushiSwap. I wasn't even aware they had two other products. One is an incubator and one is a lending product. So they will be shutting down both to just concentrate on their DEX. Nothing wrong with that. This made news. Coinbase settles with the New York financial regulator. Okay. The headline is 100 million, but no, it's 50 million that they agreed to pay, and then they agreed to spend 50 million to improve its compliance program. Now, why did they have to settle? What were they getting sued for? Well, according to New York State Department of Financial Services, Coinbase did not do a good enough job with following anti-money laundering laws. So they didn't conduct sufficient background checks. Okay? So, I don't know. I mean, I know Coinbase, they have KYC. They collect KYC, so I don't know if they didn't collect enough or what was going on. But supposedly the New York State Department thought they didn't. So they sued them. But they settled this. 50 million is being paid in fines. 50 million is going to be used to improve the compliance program. And that's done. This meme token, Bonk, and I've been avoiding talking about it because I know what happens in these scenarios. Whenever you have some kind of hot, hyped up project that skyrockets, the next move is usually it dumps, right? So a lot of you guys, I hear a lot of people talk about this. You better be careful. You better know what you're doing because this could collapse just as fast as it went up, and you have no one to blame but yourself if you're going to be aping or FOMO into it, okay? But this explains the reason why Solana probably has been recovering. We've seen an influx of money into Solana, right? This could be the reason. Now, Solana stopped pumping. So that could be an early indication that this whole thing may be coming to a stop soon. But again, be careful. That's what the courthouse looked like as SBF was entering in, right? And as expected, he pleaded not guilty. But some controversy. I don't think him pleading not guilty is a surprise. But remember that 250 million bail, 10% of it was put down. Now, most of it, we would think, came from the parents, right? But there were 2 other people that put up collateral for Sam. And unfortunately, the judge accepted a motion to redact the identities of the 2 guys, right? Everyone's thinking one of them has to be Kevin O'Leary. The other, we don't know, right? But it would have been nice to find out who actually put up the money for SBF. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, right, as to who wants to protect him, who wants to get him out, right? We don't know at this. This is kind of a shocking news. And this adds to the conspiracy theories that people had about SBF being a fall guy, the government's possibly, setting this whole thing up to see FTX fail so that they could see the entire crypto sector fail. Remember this guy, Daniel Fredberg? A lot of people said, hey, this guy is no good. He was involved with some online casino or online poker scam where, he was advising people that had God mode, and it was just like, ripping people off left and right. And he was the lead counsel to FTX and Alameda. But, this guy just disappeared off the face of the earth, supposedly. But now it's been reported, no. He's been talking to about 20 U.S. investigators, and he will be standing in as a government witness. He is not going to be charged with anything. Okay? So he's not pleading or anything. He's not like Gary or Caroline that actually made some kind of plea agreement. He's actually just coming in as a witness. So it makes you wonder if this guy was planted in all along because they knew something was going to happen, or he made something happen. We don't know. This is wild. Wild is coming out. So he's going to be a government witness come October. Okay, and he's been sharing details about SBF's use of customer money, how sister trading firm Alameda Research operated, and a whole lot of stuff. So he's been meeting with 20 investigators, including officials from Justice Department, FBI, SEC, and the South District of New York, right? And supposedly, because he was a lawyer, right, he asked FTX to waive his attorney-client privilege. They said no, but he ignored that anyways and still worked with the authorities. Okay, I don't even see how that's legal when they said you can't. Well, I guess in the case of fraud, I guess you can make the case that you can break the attorney-client privilege, but still. All right, next up is Silvergate, which is a large crypto bank, and they are hurting right now, because of the massive amount of withdrawals and because their ties to FTX and Alameda. They had to sell off a ton of assets, and they scrapped whatever they bought from Facebook. Facebook had their Dem project, which is like their own crypto coin, is their stable coin. Facebook took a huge loss. I don't know how many billions they lost. They sold it to Silvergate, who is now writing that off to zero. So they're giving up on that. They're laying off 40% of their personnel, which is around 200 employees, and they're liquidating their debt, and they lost $718 million in the process. People are starting to ask about when is the next CPI data? When is the next FOMC meeting, right? People are just worried about what's coming. So the good thing is the next CPI data release is January 12th. That's only a couple weeks away. So we'll see. We had 2 consecutive CPI releases that indicated that inflation was coming down. And Powell was even kind of dovish with this last FOMC meeting press conference. I mean, he said there's still a lot of work to be done, but he was open to the fact that they could just decrease rate hikes until one day there's no more, and then we stay steady, right? So that will come in February. So this next CPI reading will be absolutely crucial. If we see inflation go down more, then that's 3 consecutive months. That is no longer coincidence. That's what Powell is waiting for, right? So We don't have much longer to wait. It's coming. It's coming.